Well, I'm Chris,
I'm Peck.
and we're here again for another wonderful podcast.
Yes, we are. Unfortunately, tonight we're going to talk about something not so wonderful, and for my opinion, it's my personal hell. And for Chris, well, Chris isn't too worried about it, but at the same time, he realizes that it hurt the brand a little bit. And yeah, we're going to be getting into the end of the streak, and we're going to look at the streak itself since it's now history.
Hard to believe, huh?
Yeah.
What's the final count again? Was it?
He's now 21-1.
Wow.
Or is he 20-1?
You were right.
He's 21-1.
Yep, you are correct. I kind of lost count of all this.
Yeah. Now, my question is, well, I guess if they did it by opponent, he would be at quite less, because he wrestled Triple H 3 times. He wrestled Kane, 3 times? Yeah. No, twice.
Yeah, twice. Yeah, and I think that some of the other matches
Michaels twice.
were on a different pay-per-view.
Yeah.
Well,
just a Mania, yeah.
On a lighter note, though, RVD is still undefeated at WrestleMania.
Shut up, RVD's still in WWE, and I hate you.
I'm sorry, just saying.
It's bad enough that he went to TNA. It was even worse when he left.
I was really
an even worse role.
I just felt bad. RVD's time in TNA was just, ugh.
He was world champion. It's better than what he's doing in WWE now.
But they didn't build it up right. It was so. They did a great job when he won, but then
sign him into
they didn't. Oh God!
And he wasn't allowed to keep the title and defend it at Bound for Glory.
I can't wait to discuss TNA again. Oh my God!
Oh, we will. We'll get to them. But the streak.
Well, it's hard to believe that they ended it the way they did,
and didn't promote it at all.
Yeah, the shock value's cool, but at the same point, was it necessary?
Well, not even that. It turned a lot of fans off. There were people like me that have decided they're never going to watch it again.
WWE pretty much, fan-wise, they can say they're strong, but they're the only big name out there. I'm sure if WCW was still around, they'd be giving them a run for their money.
Yeah, pretty much. Plus, they're not making any new stars.
No, and that's typical, too. That's a common problem in the business right now. No one's taking a gamble here. No one's taking a risk, a chance, anything.
People knock ROH, but about all you can say about them is they at least make their own stars.
Yep, they've produced a hell of a lot of stars in TNA
and not even just that. Now, they do push a lot of foreign wrestlers, but they're also developing a lot of American talent.
Yeah, and TNA, New Japan, WWE, they're all,
Don't even get me started on TNA. They've lost more former world champions in other companies than any other thing that they've had.
Oh, you're preaching to the choir.
Yep.
But a lot of different, promotions have used a lot of Ring of Honor talent.
Yeah,
it's true.
Look at WWE. Granted, some of it's not all good, but some of it's been great.
I know.
Good. I wouldn't call any of it great except CM Punk.
What do you think was the mind, process or the thought process behind ending the streak?
Vince McMahon and Triple H. Honestly, anything they have touched lately, when they've had a hand in creating it, that they haven't had input from other people, has just been awful. You look at some of the segments McMahon's famous for. His stupid comedy skits where someone's getting puked on that no one wants to see. They're juvenile.
Yeah. There's mental issues with that guy in general.
And ever since Triple H has taken over, the storylines have went downhill. The in-ring quality has just died. He's injected himself into storylines. What was the need for him to wrestle The Undertaker 2 years in a row? That was awful, too.
Well, I wasn't sure they were trying to, do the same thing, with Michaels. They did Michaels, and they're trying to do the same thing with Triple H. They're trying to match it up.
Retire him too. But they didn't. It just was very convoluted. The writing makes no sense. They have one angle fall through, and then try to replace it and patch it together, and it doesn't work. They're just not running the company in any way, shape, or form. It's good. They fire their head writer at least once a year.
Yeah, that's their own fault, though. They should have people in there knowing what they're doing and their writing and their thought process instead of just having these Hollywood guys come in who have no idea what they're doing.
Well, they come up with a whole script, wrestling, and then McMahon decides 3 hours before Raw, I want to change it and use the other one you have.
Ugh. You think, they ended the streak just to end it? Or they ended it just to do shock value? They ended it just to...
I think they ended it for shock value, to create a really strong buzz after WrestleMania, because don't forget, this year they didn't have any superstars debuting again.
No.
Remember how at the end of WrestleMania last year we had a lot of guys come back, and we had Batista and everything else, or whoever. I don't even remember who came back, but we had different ankles and whatnot. You had Lesnar who came back, and he worked a couple of days and whatnot. This year we don't have that. We kind of they got some development from within with the Shield and all those other guys, but we didn't get that this year.
Well, you can't say. It definitely they did it kind of like the shock value, like with WCW did with David Arquette. When the streak ended, it was on the radio stations. It was on MSN. I saw it online. Other media outlets covered it, so it did get worldwide publicity after
Definitely,
WrestleMania.
It wasn't very
got people talking. That's
yeah,
for sure.
it did. But I mean, a lot of it, you look at the real fan reaction was negative.
Well, of course, yeah. I mean, they're ending a streak that wasn't supposed to end like
Well,
that
what
to
I was
most
angry
fans.
about it was the fact that they didn't build it up at all, and he didn't have an opponent for WrestleMania until a month and a half before.
Yeah, I don't know why they do that.
And honestly, if I want the streak to end, I want it to come against somebody and that's going to give me a better match
Very true.
than botch his way through it like Lesnar did.
I just don't think he's a good wrestler.
He's
I mean,
not.
like
He
safety
injures
wise, yeah,
everyone. I mean, he's
sloppy.
convincing, but that's only because he's strong enough to make you do whatever he wants to do to you.
Too stiff, too dangerous, and that's just bad. You can't do that to people. People's lives are on the line in the ring. You can't do stuff like that.
I can't lie. I was very entertained by SummerSlam, though, whenever he treated CM Punk like a human ragdoll, only because I've never seen another human being's arm ripped off by something that didn't have teeth. And I was really thinking that it was going to come off. It didn't, but he got the hell beaten out of him.
I think it was that Extreme Rules thing where he beat the heck out of Cena.
I had no problem with that either.
Yeah, that was thoroughly enjoyable just to watch. But you think...
Well, you went to Rumble. You saw him firsthand in person, what he did to the Big Show.
Yeah, that was a shit match, too. I didn't like that.
I wasn't expecting much.
Yeah, I mean, that was a waste. Most of that pay-per-view was horrible. The only thing that was...
I'm glad I didn't go.
Yeah, it was not worth the money. Thank God the tickets were free.
Everyone in Pittsburgh gets so excited to go, and it's the worst Royal Rumble of all time.
It really was.
I would have gone to 94 or 95 with Big Dick Slater or Murdoch or whoever the hell it was.
Yeah, Dick Murdoch showing up. Great wrestler, but yeah, not the right time for him to be in a Rumble. You think
about 6 months in the gym, maybe?
Yeah, I mean, he was white as a ghost going in there, and here's a question too: you think Vince McMahon didn't want him to have that upper hand? Does it go back to that? You think, or something?
I don't think, because if you look at it historically, everyone in all their wrestling books has talked about it, where there were two guys that were always Vince McMahon's guys, and those were Shawn Michaels before he departed the company due to his injury and whatnot, and retirement. And the other one was The Undertaker. I mean, he stayed by them the entire time, and he had opportunities to go to WCW too, and he never, took them or seriously considered them. Michaels even wanted to leave in 94 or 95, but he didn't. And,
he stuck around.
Yeah.
Pretty much everybody was getting, proposition to get out of there, man.
Yeah, because they were losing money. But yeah, The Undertaker was one of the ones that always stuck by. He did what he was told. He did whatever job he had to do.
Yeah, company guy.
Yeah.
Speaking of a company guy, WCW's company guy was Sting, of course. Are we ever going to see those two wrestle?
Honestly, I gotta say that I'm going to make a boxing reference here. Remember how a couple years ago everyone wanted Manny Pacquiao and Floyd Mayweather to fight?
Yeah.
Now that they've all, except for Floyd Mayweather, who's still undefeated, but you have Pacquiao who lost 3 out of 4 fights or whatnot, people just aren't as interested now. Yeah, it'll still do big business and everything, but if it's not for the streak and it's not for the nostalgia and everything, my question is, are we so spoiled by success that we don't want to see the match? In my mind, no. I mean, I don't want to wait another year for Sting to get more broken down, more decrepit, more awful in the ring, and then have him watch The Undertaker, who I couldn't take him seriously in a ring with at this age anyway, and, have to watch the match. I just don't care.
Yeah, very true. I mean, this has been the internet buzz for the past 4 years. Every time around February or so, is Sting jumping? Is he coming to WWE? The different vignettes and stuff that WWE had with The Undertaker kind of made you think Sting was coming. The internet would buzz every February, March. Is Sting coming? Is he jumping?
Cares?
This year was the highest I've ever seen. Every wrestling news place had it. Facebook had it. Sting himself on his pages had it. Everything. It was just oh my God, is he coming or not? Please just finish this so I can just look at something else besides Sting jumping. And you're right. We really don't care at this point because it's too late. It's just too late, I think.
The nostalgia is gone. The luster is gone. I mean, yeah, he's 21-1. That's admirable, but he's not undefeated anymore.
I mean, if they can still go, God bless them, let it happen. But I just think it's...
But I don't care if they even can. That's the thing. I'm not interested anymore.
Yeah.
It's like when Alabama won 2 straight national titles. They're going for a three-peat. They lose a game, the SEC qualifier for the SEC title game, and then all of a sudden they're in a bowl game against Oklahoma. I didn't watch it because it wasn't for the title. I was so spoiled by success, I didn't care.
Yeah. I mean, if they physically can both do it and they're professionals and they know what they're doing in the ring, by God, let them do it.
I've seen no evidence that Sting can do it.
Honestly. Yeah, I don't either.
We've seen his recent run in TNA, and even when he's been healthy, he hasn't been able to slam X Division guys.
A majority of it is just avoiding bumps altogether. He'll just go outside for 10 minutes and then they get back and have a 5-minute match.
Yeah, that's
pretty much
been his modus operandi since
I
Bound for Glory 2008.
Yeah, pretty much. That's where it all started. It was just to avoid
Him and
injury.
Joe, yeah,
Yeah,
that was really bad.
and it's just to avoid the fact that he can't, do what he used to do. And it's kind of sad, but it's still like, well, then what's he doing there?
Yeah, like you remember Hulk Hogan's second comeback match when he was working SummerSlams for a while against Randy Orton?
Yeah,
Saddest, funniest thing I've ever seen. Orton goes to RKO him. Hogan cannot stay on his feet and falls back against the ropes.
yeah.
I loved it because I hate Hulk Hogan, but it's
Yeah, when's enough? I mean, and
yeah,
then
pretty much.
then those two Bound for Glory didn't. I mean,
Or like I'll give you an example. You go to an indie show. They
yeah,
bring back a washed-up has-been like Jake Roberts, and some of the fans are chanting, "Please come back." Well, the rest of us that actually care are chanting, "Don't come back." You wasted a roster spot on somebody that can't wrestle. That's what I hate.
and I think they go by the name, but he's not Jake the Snake from 1990. He's Jake the Snake now, and it's.
Yeah,
I mean, the
it's
guy can't really do much.
Sadder than it is good.
Yeah. Well, I think for the Undertaker streak too. I mean, it just goes back to personal safety. I think I mean, the guy got pretty banged up over the years, and I think.
Well, that and he managed to get himself hurt during the match because Lesnar's sloppy. He dumped him right in his head with a double leg and gave him a serious concussion.
You think it was better just to end it because for his safety, like he can't go anymore? You
No,
know?
because I think you could have put him. Remember the year before when he wrestled CM Punk?
Yeah.
Smaller guy, good wrestler, safe in the ring, never hurt anybody but Rey Mysterio because he kicked him square in the nose. Other than that, Undertaker worked that match fine, didn't have any issues.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you put him up against a guy like that, you put him up against Michaels, Jericho, not RVD. RVD has a habit of hitting people with his foot by accident. But, somebody like that can actually wrestle, as opposed to somebody that by now outweighs The Undertaker and infinitely outpowers him. That wasn't a good idea.
Do you think it makes sense for Brock Lesnar to end the streak since they had unfinished business?
No, because that was more of an inside thing than anybody. Who the hell knew about that?
Yeah.
Other than the UFC bid, but then The Undertaker was as more of a human. He wasn't necessarily in character
Yeah.
or gimmick. Only UFC fans knew about that. They never publicized it on WWE. No one knew about it. Plus, if you look at their unfinished business, The Undertaker never beat Brock Lesnar.
Yeah.
So there wasn't really much to even out.
I think the logistics of it are like the fans will see a younger, healthier Brock Lesnar who's a UFC fighter. If he can't beat this old guy that's almost 50 or whatever, it just doesn't add up.
But he's not an old guy. But he's
Yeah.
not he's their legend basically.
Yeah.
He's their superhero.
I think like if you want realism, you have to have Brock Lesnar win just because. I mean, how could he not?
Yeah, but look how many matches they've had Brock Lesnar lose to Triple H with a broken arm and other things that, he never should have lost in the first place.
Well, it goes back to like Ken Shamrock being NWA champion. It's like, well, who's gonna beat him? I mean, he's a UFC
pretty
fighter.
much.
I mean, I was watching some of the matches. I'm like, wait a second, Ron Killings beat him? Come on.
Yeah, they definitely overplay the whole, background of that. 'Cause
It's tough.
It's very hard to transition into. It's like, well, you're trained in a legitimate, martial arts. How are you not able to just kill the guy?
And that's why when they had Tank Abbott in WCW, like when Vince Russo wanted him to win the title at one of their pay-per-views, I could understand that thought process because that makes sense. Who the heck's going to beat a Ultimate Fighter? It's not going to be. Not saying he was the best of all time, but just realistically, Tank Abbott against somebody would probably beat the crap out of him.
Yeah.
So the streak's over. I mean, the publicity's strong, negative publicity pretty much, but it's publicity. So it goes back to that too. They're talking about it. So, if it wasn't the greatest WrestleMania, you'll remember that the streak ended there. So you'll be talking about that. They always figure out a way to have you talking about Mania after Mania.
I truthfully don't remember a whole lot else that happened at it, except for the fact that Bryan won the belt, and I hated it.
Yeah, I couldn't honestly tell you who wrestled who. It didn't look like there was much.
I don't remember any of the other matches except for maybe no, wait, that didn't happen. Never mind.
There was that battle royal they have every year, and they just put Andre the Giant's name on it to just make it a little bit more legit, I guess.
Was
But
it all gigantic people? I don't really remember. I remember
No, it
Jack
was just-
Swagger was in it. I'm like, well, you're not really a giant.
Every
Maybe
year-
by today's indie wrestling standards, you are, but
every year they have a 20, 30-man battle royal. This is just their way of justifying it, putting a little more spice on it. But it was just like anybody who would just show up in it, all the extra guys. But yeah, I mean, it's a shame the streak ended. But I guess, I mean, what else?
especially to a part-timer like that, you don't
Yeah.
even give it to somebody that works the shows. I mean, I can understand why CM Punk left and didn't want his spots to be given away to people like that.
It's
I don't blame
frustrating.
him.
Yeah, it's frustrating.
Brock Lesnar's such a draw. Why don't you at least include him on the show? The next thing they're doing with him now is he's basically waiting for whoever's going to be champion. They're giving him a title shot at SummerSlam. Okay, so you basically tell me not to care about this entirely until SummerSlam, and then what happens if he loses the belt? That means that, or doesn't win the belt. That means him ending the streak was just absolutely pointless.
Yeah.
If you're just going to book him soft like that afterward, what do you do with a guy like that?
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, it really is hard.
Are you going to turn Lesnar into the next Goldberg? Like, what are you trying to do here?
Yeah. Are they going to bring Goldberg back to wrestle again against Lesnar? Let's hope not.
Oh, just for pure comic relief when they're even older and even worse. Yeah, I'd love to see that again. I hate that company.
Well, so Save the Streak didn't end, and he went off 22-0. I mean, that would have been great for him.
Well, then if he was going to wrestle Sting next year, that would have been perfect.
Yeah. I think that'd be a nice retirement match, so to speak, if they could do it, and if we're interested. But they would both retire with that match. I mean, that's a great way.
Yeah.
But
probably ended up being the saddest match ever. For that
yeah,
match,
I just don't see
honestly
it.
wanted it to be a first man standing match. Just started on the ground. The first person to get up and stand for 10 seconds wins. But
yeah, it's like, who's not going to have a stroke or something here?
Yeah, pretty much.
I guess we should go over the opponents.
And we can talk about kind of what happened to them afterward, too.
Yeah. Well, it all started WrestleMania 7. This was after his WCW run. He defeated Superfly Jimmy Snuka, which is a big name.
And he wasn't really around much longer after that, was he?
No, he kind of vanished in '92.
He was gone by '93.
Yeah, he was.
I believe.
Yeah, he was off and on then, but yeah, he was a goner. It's a big name.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it really was. It was a perfect opportunity to, get a veteran on the downside of his career that had done a lot for you, had a famous moment in wrestling history, and you kind of send him out with a bang and make a name for somebody, a newer star, all at once.
See, instead of getting hit with a coconut, he gets hit with an urn. Just kidding. It's just a shame for Jimmy Snuka at that time, though. When he came back in '89, that I guess this was I don't know how many runs he had there, but this is his second or third run he came in, and it just wasn't that strong. He was kind of getting jobbed out a little bit.
Well, they were completely unwilling to overthrow Hogan at all and let anybody ever have a shot until really Warrior. I mean, there wasn't anybody that would have the title for more than a little while, and that kept, aside from his drug problems, it kept Jake Roberts from, owning the belt.
Speaking of WrestleMania 8, he defeated Jake the Snake Roberts.
Yes,
how about that?
And it's just interesting how, unfortunately, like in these two cases, the wrestler that feuded with the Undertaker wasn't around much longer after the matter of fact. I believe that was Robert's last WWE match.
Yeah, for a couple of years he went to
before
WCW.
he came back in '96. Yeah.
And it was interesting because it all started off with the Ultimate Warrior. He was doing the vignettes with him, getting in his head.
Mm-hmm.
And then I guess they were supposed to wrestle each other, but never really.
Warrior backed out. There was some kind of thing where he left, and they weren't able to do the angle.
Yeah, they did something. SummerSlam, he held Vince up for money or something like that. But I guess there was an idea to have that. I don't know where that would have went, but
I mean, from a psychological promo standpoint as well as just good, solid in-ring work, that could have been one of his better feuds. It just wasn't well developed and enough. That would have honestly been, if the Undertaker had wrestled for maybe if it had been '96 and Roberts had been in better shape, I think that would have been a better feud for them. But I'm glad that we had it.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't bad. They were all kind of in that triangle because Macho Man's kind of feuding with both of them and Warrior and all that, but
and that's actually the start of the Undertaker's big face turn, which he pretty much held until '99. He was never really a heel again afterward until Biker Taker. Yeah,
because Jake was face
briefly.
Then he turned heel when that all went down. So that was a decent feud. I think more longevity with it, but what can you do?
Yeah, definitely. But I mean, we all look back on it fondly.
Yeah. Undertaker, WrestleMania 9 defeated Giant Gonzalez, a.k.a. Elegante from WCW.
A.k.a. really not that good.
A.k.a. Manny the Pelican Man from Baywatch.
Really?
Yes, he was on Baywatch.
I never knew that.
Yeah. It was interesting. It was something different. This was the time when everybody from WCW was jumping over, Matt Bourne, who was Doink, Lex Luger, Ric Flair.
I understand he had ridiculously big boots on, but he was still enormous.
Yeah, he was a big guy.
Yeah.
The Steiners, all these guys were jumping over. It was interesting. I mean, when you're a kid, why not? It's a giant caveman or whatever. I don't care. I mean, it's somebody new for the Undertaker. So
I'm not really sure what he was supposed to be.
I think they just would have had him. I mean, they want to do what they want to do. They always like the gimmicks. But if he would have just came in like tights, I think it would have been a little bit less.
I always thought it would have been funny if when the Great Khali showed up, they put him in the Giant Gonzalez thing and tried to tell us that he came back. That would have been great.
He's alive.
I don't think a lot of people would have known.
No, they would have no idea. They always think he's the same person probably half the time.
Well, they have people from different races playing different gimmicks all the time, and no one ever picks up on it.
Yeah, no one figures it out. They're like,
Case
yeah.
in point, Rusev, Bulgarian, apparently now a Russian.
Yeah, when did that happen? Huh?
Like 2 weeks ago.
Jeez.
Whenever they started putting him on TV, all of a sudden he has Vladimir Putin in his entrance video and some blonde woman screaming at me.
They showed that one Russian guy come back. That was terrible. Who was that guy?
Kozlov?
Yeah,
the
there
one
we
that
go.
rolled around like a slug with
Yeah.
Triple H?
Oh, was that bad? It's Survivor
You
Series.
texted me, you're like, this is the worst match I've ever seen. Man.
That was hard. That was hard to watch.
Didn't Edge come out and save them and actually end the match himself?
Oh, I couldn't tell you. I
Or
was
was
trying.
that the one with Jeff Hardy? No, that remember. Yeah, they turned it into a triple threat because it was so bad and Edge won the belt.
I just remember sitting there with all like some of my wrestling friends. We're all watching that pay-per-view, and I'm just like eating this good chicken and rice and just praying for the show to end. It was so bad. I'm like, wow.
They did like a sitting body lock for like 15 minutes.
And they threw like Big Show in a coffin because it was him and the Undertaker. I'm like, why?
That was funny.
Why? But really, Giant Gonzalez, when you're a kid, it's just something different. It's
more
cool.
impressive, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, people get offended. Oh, it's so stupid. Well, I mean, you know, it is what it is. It's for kids.
Yep.
Let's get over it. Here's a
King Kong
fun one.
Bundy's up next.
Yeah, WrestleMania 11.
It
Bundy.
wasn't a bad match.
I remember watching it briefly. That was WrestleMania. Like I watched, my friend taped it for me, and I watched it, but the tape was bad, so I had to go get
Is
it.
that the one where he
But-
beat him with a really crappy choke slam and a leg drop?
It probably was. 1995 was that describes 1995. A crappy choke slam and a leg drop.
Well,
'Cause
what
that
are you
was
really going to do
awful
to King Kong
year.
Bundy, though? I mean, I get that you tombstone Vader at one point in your career, but that's King Kong Bundy. That's
Yeah.
a big boy.
Yeah, he's not. You're not gonna get much out of that
His
match.
weight's not distributed as evenly as Vader was in that sense.
No.
Because Vader was pretty compact.
1995 was a weird time for WWE too. It's just
Yeah,
like this
it really was.
hodgepodge of just randomness.
Razor Ramon, everybody wore all this bright colored stuff. Macho Man was still kind of there commentating, but it was odd.
Yeah, I mean,
It
it's,
was just really,
Weird.
really disturbing. Bam Bam Bigelow was there.
well, actually, I think Savage left,
Yeah, that was nice.
but it looked like 94 looked like 95 for a long time. So it's
Yeah,
kind
it
of
really
funny.
did. It was confusing.
You could honestly turn it on like, oh. They had Mantar and Dick Slater running around. and
Nine-man tour.
Techno Team 2000, which I didn't mind. Out in Montoya. The list goes on. Waylon Mercy killing
Were the
people.
Body Donnas there yet, or was that 96?
Yep, they were there.
Oh, yeah.
That's when Skip came in. Like Zip didn't
son.
come. Zip didn't come. I don't think till like '96. But yeah, so they came that year. Radford and Hakushi and everybody. After that mess, WrestleMania 12, Undertaker
Diesel.
and Diesel.
One
Yeah,
of his better Mania matches, where they just basically beat the hell out of each other the whole time.
that was like
That was interesting, because you got two guys around the same size and relatively at the same stage of their career.
a lot of big names on that Mania too. Piper was there. Warrior was there. Hart.
It's such a
Michaels?
shame it was at one of the smallest arenas. They were in that little place in Anaheim where the Ducks used to play.
I thought they were in like a big dome. Where it looked huge.
Yeah, there was only like 15,000 people there.
I thought there was more than that. That looked huge. That arena, L.A.
Yeah, they were in Anaheim.
I don't know.
Yeah, weren't they in their hockey arena?
I don't know. It looked bigger than that, man. It looked like a huge arena, but it looked big. Like they made it look big. I don't know.
I don't know.
We'll have to watch it
I
again.
thought it was a really small attendance. We'll have to look that up another time.
We will. It was. I mean, the pay per view itself, there just was no matches because they had that hour match that was boring.
Hey,
I didn't like it. I'm like, they're just
I gotta
not.
be honest. The more that I went back and watched it, like if you watch it twice for nostalgia's sake, it's okay. You
Yeah,
get back and you watch it anymore, you're like, ugh.
it's just boring. I mean, it doesn't have to be like crazy spot moves all over the place, but just like some better wrestling. I thought we'd get better wrestling.
Well, Michaels really held back on his light heavyweight style too. We didn't get
Yeah.
a lot of that. He tried to wrestle more of Hart style.
I didn't think Bret Hart would have like a boring match, but that was. I don't know. I feel like if Benoit was in there, or somebody else, it would have been a little bit more.
Yeah, I can honestly say
Exciting.
Bret Hart has not had a boring match. Like even if I didn't like who he was wrestling or even him, his matches were always pretty good.
He usually can adapt, but that match for some reason just does not.
Because he could switch to brawling or he could do whatever he needed to do.
Yeah, I just couldn't get into it that
You know
much.
which match I've never seen? Him and Undertaker from Royal Rumble. The one before 12. Mania
Oh
12.
yeah, '96. Yeah, I have that on
never
video.
Seen that all the way.
I smell a plan. WrestleMania 13, which I don't like. He defeated Sid.
I liked that match. I didn't like the rest of the card.
Yeah, 13 was a lousy. That 97 was rough too. That was like a 95 through
It
97 was hard
really,
to watch.
really weird because after Sid lost the belt, you remember that odd pay-per-view where he teamed up with like the Road Warriors?
Yeah, King of the Ring. Yeah,
Yeah, that was very bizarre.
I remember that Mania, and I was in 5th grade. And my friend was telling me like Flash Funk against Billy Gunn. I'm like, why would I buy that pay per view? It's
Well,
terrible.
I remember I thought Owen Hart ended Sid Vicious's career because the last match that I remember was Owen Hart
Yeah.
beat Sid Vicious, and I was like, but they never explained where Sid went. And I was like, wait, was that for a retirement stipulation?
Yeah, he just kind of vanished. I don't think he re-signed, which I thought was kind of odd.
Although this Mania 13, I'm glad they didn't do what they would do now and make it a junky triple threat match between Bret Hart, Sid, and Undertaker. I'm glad that Hart played a role. Notice they never did anything with that, though. Sid never really did go after Hart to get his revenge for losing the belt, did he?
I don't know. There was some Raws. There was a cage match or something. I think it was to get the title shot. I think it was before. I don't think.
No, there was that one, and then that's how Sid won the belt.
Yeah.
But there wasn't.
No, I don't think there was much.
Because there was that fatal 4-way thing.
That was before too, though. That was like that after the Rumble.
Yeah, because the Undertaker didn't win the Royal Rumble to get his title shot.
No. What I think, like, because I guess Sid beat Michaels at the whatever, but then he beat him in Survivor Series.
Yeah, but then Michaels
beat him at
Sid
the Rumble.
At Rumble, and Michaels couldn't wrestle, and then Sid won that.
Yeah, the 4-way or something. Or, because I don't think Sid was in that. Sid beat Michaels or something.
Or Bret Hart won the belt and Sid beat him for the belt.
Something like that.
I just remember Sid defended against Bret Hart successfully, and then I believe he beat Bret for the title once.
I was heavy in the WCW at the moment. Like, I was watching WWF, and I ordered that Rumble live. It was awful, but 97 was just tough to watch. You could just tell the product.
Main event did redeem it a lot. I really did like that match. That's one of my favorite Undertaker matches.
I honestly haven't watched the whole thing. The whole pay-per-view is, pretty rough. But
if you just skip to that match, then.
Yeah, you'll survive it.
However, for any of you that are wondering why the Undertaker looks so sick when he actually wins the world title, apparently when he went to Tombstone Sid Vicious had he crapped his pants during the match.
That's awesome.
And the Undertaker had to deal with this for a good 10, 12 minutes of the match.
Oh man.
And then he had to tombstone him.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
I never knew that.
Yeah. It was in one of his rare, things where he actually talks about his match and breaks kayfabe, and he, was talking about how that actually happened.
Wow. I never actually knew that. When was how was that brought about again? Did he talk about it in a commentary or something?
Apparently what it happened, well, they both kind of talked about it. Sid wasn't allowed to use the restroom. He kind of thought that his match was later, and he had to go out for his entrance. They sent him out without allowing him to use the restroom.
That must have been horrible.
So he went and tried to work the match, and I believe it actually happened. You remember when he misses the leg drop and he screams?
Yeah.
And grabs his lower back? He wasn't grabbing his lower back.
Ugh.
And he does like that weird shuffling thing where he gets up on his tiptoes.
Well, luckily he had Sid had black trunks on.
Oh, that would have been the most embarrassing moment in wrestling history if he had worn white.
Imagine that.
I mean, that would have been worse than Tommy Dreamer in his puke bucket.
Randy Orton, I think, crapped his pants too in OVW, but that's another story.
Yeah.
I never really thought of that, like wrestling hygiene problems.
My funniest Randy Orton moment is when that fan came and hit him right in the dong when he was on the ropes.
That's awesome. Well, brother showed up in WrestleMania 14.
Looking back on it, it was a lot better back then.
Interesting story, though. I don't know if I heard this from The Godfather or somebody said this. It was originally not supposed to be Kane. It was going to be Papa Shango returning to take on
Taker.
Yeah. And he had like a new mask and a little bit tweaked gimmick.
See, that wouldn't be bad.
I thought that would have been great. Yeah. I think you could have held off on Kane for a little bit.
Yeah, I think you could have.
You could have brought him in later.
Or you could have just brought him back as the dentist.
Yeah.
I love that gimmick.
There you go.
DDS.
I actually heard like on a radio show that he hung up on them because they were just talking about Isaac Yankem for like the first 2 seconds. He's like, "Thanks, guys." I'm like, "Geez."
Yeah, he did not want to talk about that gimmick at all.
It's like get over yourself, though. Geez. Undertaker and Kane was good. That's when WWE really turned around. They were getting more spicy, and a little more
they did
rated
a
R.
lot heavy on the production value and the lighting and the fireworks and everything leading up to it, but it made for good, highlight packages.
It was a fun pay-per-view.
The match itself was a little bit stiff, honestly, because Kane was bigger back then, and he was hard to move around. And that was kind of his whole, like, Frankenstein-type gimmick. You couldn't really knock him down.
Yeah, you weren't going to get, like, a Lucha Libre match out of those two, but
no,
it was pretty decent. I liked it. WrestleMania 14, I thought, was probably one of the better ones in a long time. I ordered that live. I enjoyed it. I thought it was really good. Now, I mean, the talent, some was good, some was bad, but I thought it was fun and enjoyable.
I gotta be honest, I've never seen the main event from that. I've never watched Shawn Michaels in Austin.
Excellent. A lot of fun to watch.
I was a Shawn Michaels fan. I hated it.
Yeah, I don't blame you. That's like the end of his like run. This was a forgettable show. WrestleMania 15. It basically looked like any other pay per view they had in
Is it
'99.
the Hell in a Cell with the Boss Man?
Yeah, that
Was
was
a really bad
garbage.
match. I'm sorry. I love Ministry of Darkness Taker, and I figured that would be a good match. All they did was punch each other the entire time. It was not a good
Junk.
match.
Well, forget that then. WrestleMania 17. Undertaker is the Biker Taker
By
against
the way,
Triple H.
just covering real quick, I forgot to do this.
Yeah.
Diesel left not very long after WrestleMania 12. Sid
Yeah.
left not long after Mania 13. And
Little theme there.
Boss Man left. Well,
He was
no,
kind
he
of
was still
around.
there for a little bit. When was his whole bit with the Big Show?
That was '99. That was a Survivor Series that year.
Yeah, so he was only around a little while longer too.
That was a rubbish match. Taker is Biker and WrestleMania 17 against Triple H. That was
a
pretty.
good
I like
match.
that.
Yeah, I did like that.
Great
match a
pay per view.
lot. One of the few times Triple H put anybody over other than himself. So
That was
not
like-
bad.
Talking about Sting fighting on the outside. That's half that match was on the outside.
Yeah, it was, but it didn't take away from it actually.
Yeah. I like the Ric Flair one, WrestleMania 18.
You remember when he couldn't hit him with the last ride because Flair couldn't sit up and he had to tombstone him?
Arn Anderson
His
came
little
in.
legs just kept kicking, and then it was really awkward. Like, everyone got quiet when he beat up Arn Anderson, and I don't blame them.
Well, what's Anderson jumping in there if he had to retire from being hurt? What's he doing, spine busting the Undertaker for?
I just would have pointed at him and said, hey, there's Sid Vicious with a pair of scissors.
He would have ran up. It was a good match. It was just like a street fight revenge match. You're not going to get a technical match. I mean, it was pretty decent.
Yeah, they made it believable that Ric Flair could actually hurt him a little bit, too, which is funny.
Yeah. I didn't like this Mania, WrestleMania 19.
Hated it.
Yeah, it's not even worth talking about.
Although, wait, was that Taker and Angle? Or, I'm sorry, Lesnar and Angle?
Yeah.
That actually wasn't a bad match, but I didn't like the rest of the show.
I thought he was with Nathan Jones. Didn't they team up or
They
no?
did.
It says Undertaker defeated Big Show and A-Train in a handicap match.
Yeah, Nathan Jones didn't show up until the end. They did something weird where they beat him up. And then, but of course, he's magically well enough to appear at the end of the match. And then all he did was he kicked the Big Show,
that whole thing
knocked
was
him out, and then Taker tombstoned A-Train.
that's stupid.
It wasn't a good match.
WrestleMania 20, Kane again. Not much to talk about.
Really short match.
Yeah. I mean, he's back as Undertaker, but he didn't. He should have, instead of wearing like a Texas cowboy hat, that's what it looked like. And he should have just had the.
I mean, I like the coat. The coat was cool, but like.
He didn't change too much.
He kept that coat and hat for too long.
Yeah.
Like, I liked when he went with the old school '98 jacket and he ditched the hat. I like that. That was cool for a couple of them recent Manias.
And it was with Paul Bear. I mean, it was cool.
The hoodie. I like the hood that he wore. That was cool.
Yeah. It was like the rebirth of the dead man.
Yeah, that was cool.
The match itself was forgettable.
It was really short.
Yeah. 21 against Orton.
That was very good.
Never. I think I've seen it, but I really forgot about most of it.
One of the best counters ever. Whenever he goes to chokeslam and it gets countered into the RKO, that would have been a good moment to end the streak because that was complete shock.
Yeah. See, there you go.
No one expected him to get out of that.
When it helps Randy Orton to establish himself. Talk about a legend killer. There you go.
That actually really. But I mean, that helped Orton's career a lot. Actually, that was him and Kane were two of the rare examples right now that we've seen where they didn't separate the company soon afterward.
True.
So far, anyway.
It helped them.
Yeah.
22 against Mark Henry in a casket match.
Yeah, that was bad.
All right, not worth talking about.
I mean, it was good for just pure comedic, freakish strength value, but it really wasn't a great match.
Yeah, forgettable at best. WrestleMania 23.
WrestleMania 22 as a whole was forgettable at best. I didn't like it at all. Triple H and Cena, just awful.
Yeah, it was garbage. WrestleMania 23 against Batista.
That was pretty good.
Yeah, I forgot what WrestleMania that was. Was that
23?
Like 07?
Yep.
So, okay, that was good. WrestleMania 24 against Edge. That was the outside one.
That was a really good match.
I remember you called me that night. Oh, it was so great. You really liked that.
Yeah, that was. That's to this day. That's in my top 5 right now.
God, there's so many manias here. Jeez. I remember that.
I mean, he is 21-1.
I remember that too. Like, I remember you called, and that's like the night. Wasn't that the night that they retired Flair?
No, that was 20. Yeah. Matter of fact, it was.
Because like the next night, like Batista was like going after Michaels in a feud. And I thought that was kind of cool, but I never really saw how that panned out.
You know how that all started? That was like a weird Chris Jericho thing where he was involved, and then for some reason they fought because of Chris Jericho.
I think that they were doing an interview on that show he had, that Jericho show or whatever.
All I remember was really, really funny. Whenever he broke Michaels in half with a power bomb, he quoted like kind of what Michael said to Ric Flair. He said, "I'm not sorry and I don't love you," and then he powerbombed him. It was
Wow,
hilarious.
that's awesome. Was that on the
It
pay-per-view?
was on Backlash or whatever the one after Backlash is.
Oh my god, that's awesome.
But yeah, 24 was that was a very good. That was one of their better manias recently.
That was like they tried the outdoor one. Was that like the first outdoor one?
That was their no. Well, technically 23 was in Detroit, and
Okay.
that was a big football stadium. They had like 80,000 people for that one.
Okay.
24 was in Florida. But that was really cool.
Yeah, I remember that. I think there was like, well, the first outdoor one I guess was the Vegas one. That was 9.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
But basically 20 from 23 onward was all stadiums.
Yeah. They
And
really
I like that.
they beefed it up.
Mm-hmm.
25 against the I'm sorry, yeah, against the Undertaker, against
Michaels.
Shawn Michaels. That was the big breakout match. That was excellent. I liked it.
It was good, honestly. Though, like for some reason, I preferred parts of 26.
Yeah. See, I didn't like that one though. I don't know. It just didn't do it for me.
Well, you know what? Actually, I like the whole build up to it more.
Well, that was good
25
too.
was just kind of like a throw in. Okay, I'm wrestling you.
Well, I like how they built up the feud in general, like the Rumbles. They
Yeah.
like were throwing each other out or whatever. That was pretty cool. You knew something was brewing. That was genius,
Well, I
really.
like the whole angle and going into 26 where Michaels was trying so hard to get a shot at the Undertaker and he didn't know what else to do. I thought it would have been okay if he would have won the Rumble and then went for the belt, but I see why they didn't do that.
Oh wow.
Because Undertaker was world champion at the time, they had him cost him the belt at Hell in a Cell. They had Michael or Elimination Chamber. They had him open up one of the floorboards, come out and kick him, and then Jericho won it.
Good old Jericho.
Yeah, so 25 and 26 really dovetail together. I mean, there really isn't, they're so related.
Yeah. Well, same thing with here with 27, 28. What was that Triple H?
Those were utterly forgettable. I'm
All
sorry.
right, let's
I
not
hated
talk about it.
27 wasn't a bad match, but
I never saw
he
them.
just basically laid there a lot.
I think I watched 28 because it was on like 24/7.
Was that the, so you saw the Hell in a Cell?
Yeah.
I was trying to drive to my friends, and I got rerouted by the fire department because the road was closed, and I missed the entire thing. That was the only match that I tried showing up for. I went there. I was mad that I missed the match. I remember I watched CM Punk and Jericho, and I went home. And I left. I didn't want to watch The Rock and Cena for the first time, so I left.
Yeah, it's like forget it. 29, he defeated CM Punk. I don't know.
Really not a long match. But, I mean, it wasn't terrible, but all it really was a finisher fest, I gotta be honest.
I'm sick of
That's
that.
all WWE does anyway, is
Sick of
finishers
that.
and counters of finishers.
Have a freaking wrestling match. Would it kill you?
Yep.
And then 30, the good old big 30, Brock Lesnar defeated The Undertaker.
Yep.
It's interesting. It's like that it ends the streak. It's the
Let's
end.
push a 36-year-old guy that wrestles 3 times a year.
Yeah, well, that's bad booking, too. It's like bringing The Rock back and all that,
Yeah. And alienating the stars that you have, which is why CM Punk is gone. And on Wednesday, he will hopefully... His contract will be up in July.
But he
I don't know if
doesn't...
it's July 1st or not.
Sometimes I think that just the egos get in the way of things, too. But I'm sure they run those guys down like dogs, too. I mean, the scheduling and all that.
Oh, they do. I mean, that's
Yeah.
what every wrestler talks about is the road, gets a lot of people because it's just so tough to work that many days and travel.
Good God, I believe it. It's crazy how many days a week they work. I'm not sure if they still do the twice on Saturday, twice on Sunday rubbish, but I mean, your body just takes a beating, and that's why I think, it's amazing the Undertaker's lasted this long, really.
Well, I mean, he's been fortunate. He's only had, until recently, he hasn't had that many serious injuries. Before, the only thing he had was a staph infection and a knee injury in the 90s. He really escaped with a lot. And then remember when he hurt his elbow or shoulder?
Yeah, something happened.
When we went to Raw or SmackDown, when he defended the belt and he lost
Oh,
the
yeah.
edge?
He got banged
He
up.
tore his bicep.
Didn't he get hurt in like 99, though?
That was his leg injury.
That was like,
And
okay.
then the staph infection was during his feud with Mankind.
He was out a
And
lot.
his orbital bone, whenever that got broke. But I'm not sure when that might have got. No, that was broken in '94. So he's had a titanium mesh eye socket since '94. That's why he couldn't wrestle with that Mania.
Yeah.
Because of Yokozuna, you fat fuck.
Yeah, you gotta be careful. Jeez, I mean, your leg weighs like 200 pounds.
Pretty much. Actually, I think it was actually a kick. It might have been a kick because he got kicked right near the eyeball.
Ooh. Any wrestlers that we haven't seen wrestle the Undertaker at WrestleMania that you would want to see happen?
Rob Van Dam. I mean, granted,
True.
his better matches with the Undertaker, he never wrestled him as the Dead Man.
Yeah.
The only time that he did were whenever he was Biker Taker, but they were still decent hardcore matches. Him, I would like to see. Oh, Christian, of course. No, I'm
No.
kidding. God, I don't ever want to see Christian wrestle anyone again. It's not in TNA. Uh, Jericho. I think Jericho would have been a really good fit. Angle at WrestleMania would have been good. That should have been, instead of No Way Out 2006, that should have been WrestleMania.
Yeah.
That was one of my favorite matches of all time. Um, Trying to think who else that's in WWE or was in WWE that I would have
Yeah.
wanted to see.
Can be anybody, really.
Really, I mean, early in his career, Hogan wouldn't have been bad if you really wanted to put him over, but I don't think Hogan would have been willing to do that.
Not on a Mania, no way.
No. Just for sheer numbers sake, The Rock or Austin would have been good, but they didn't end up doing it at those pay per views anyway. Matter of fact, The Undertaker never beat The Rock, ever, except at King of the Ring 99.
Yeah.
And that's really about it, honestly. How about you?
I mean, Sting, maybe.
See, I never cared. I wasn't a WCW guy, and Sting, I kind of came to the party later and liked him. Yeah, he was good in WCW, but I just never cared enough.
That's true.
I mean, he's very genre specific. That's the thing. If you weren't a WCW guy, he was one of the names that you knew, but maybe you didn't look into quite as far.
Yeah,
And
I
I've
can see
come to
it.
appreciate him a lot more now, but late in his career, no, I wouldn't want to see that now.
Warrior and Savage, definitely would have liked to see that. Even
Savage
just,
wouldn't have been bad, just from a
yeah.
whole psychology standpoint and everything else. The Papa Shango thing would have been interesting. I don't know necessarily from an in-ring standpoint, but just
No.
from just from a promo, and they could have done a lot of the same stuff with Kane that they would do with him.
Oh, definitely. I would have liked to see, like, early 90s would have been Stan Hansen. I think that would have been awesome to see him come in, like, his Texas boots and his, like, just all that junk running out of his mouth, that stuff, that chew he eats, and his whip. Be like, I'm going to whip you to death or
Although
whatever.
it's funny that you mentioned Stan Hansen because some of their better matches, even though they weren't at WrestleMania, they kind of carried an entire summer, and really this guy carried about an entire year for them. JBL versus The Undertaker would not have been a bad WrestleMania match.
Yeah, I mean, it would have been better than that one year where he lost, 2 seconds of Mysterio or something?
Yeah,
God. And then a tag match at Mania, I'd like to see the Brothers of Destruction against the Legion of Doom.
that would be good. Or if they would have done Chronic the right way.
Yeah, Chronic definitely. It's a shame they went down the way it did. Those guys were just hurt. If they would have gave them some time, which they didn't care if they would have or not, that would have been good too. But that's pretty much. And Steve Austin at Mania. I like to see him in Mania.
And if they would have built up DDP a little better than they did, I think
Yeah.
they could have really pushed DDP in 01 or 02 and really made him a bigger star than they did instead of having him be a creepy stalker in jeans.
Yeah, that
And
could have.
that would have been a good feud.
That could have went somewhere. Or even Roddy Piper.
I mean, for the newer generation of guys, though, I look and I really don't see any of them that I would care to see. Although The Miz getting beat up is always good TV.
It's always very enjoyable. Probably like one of the Wyatt guy.
Yeah, for a recent one, I wanted them to do that this year,
Yeah.
but they didn't.
That or maybe like one of the guys from the Shield if you want to help put him over, but
Not really.
depends. That's pretty much all I got.
Yeah, same here.
It's a shame Paul Bear wasn't alive to be with him for that.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
definitely. May he rest in peace. He did a lot for the business, other than his Paul Bear gimmick too, and yeah, it's sad.
Well, I mean, technically they could have brought Bruce Pritchard in, but I mean, really, would you want Brother
I
Love
don't
there?
know that a lot of people would have understood though. They
Yeah,
would
be
have been
like, what?
Especially all the kids, they would have no idea.
No clue. And it was interesting too because like that's who introduced Paul Bear was Brother Love, and he actually managed Taker in Japan. He wasn't Brother Love though. He was just like I guess just Bruce Pritchard, but he had like a purple tie on with black.
Now, when he was in Japan, what was that NJPW or what? What?
That was like one of those war ones or like All Japan,
one of those
yeah.
weird ones.
one of those off ones.
I get confused because there's New Japan, All Japan,
Oh, God.
Wrestle One, Noah, and then there's like Shoto. There's like 3 or 4 other ones. I have no idea.
Wrestling and Roses or whatever that's
Then
called.
there's the
Or
one that has an open weight championship. I have no idea.
not Wrestling and Roses, War or whatever. Yeah, there's so many. Yeah, Wrestling and Roses. It's weird. Yeah, it would have been in Japan. He wrestled a whole bunch. I remember he wrestled Haku, a couple other people. It's just a shame that Haku didn't have personality. He could have really been something, but he just didn't have the verbal skills or anything
I
to really
remember,
get over.
yeah, well, you remember the one day we watched it here on WWE Classics? We watched Prince Haku versus Warrior, and it was actually a really decent match for
Yeah.
the time period.
Yeah.
We had some good counters and everything. It was decent.
Haku could go, but just there's no personality. It's hard to market nothing.
Yeah, essentially.
But rest in peace to the streak, I guess we should say. It's a shame it happened.
Rest in peace to my interest in the company.
Yeah, pretty much. I think a lot of fans, after losing WCW, then after losing that, I mean, but see, I think that's what the way they want to go. They want you to forget all that, and it's their new generation time or whatever now. I don't know.
And their new stores are horrible, can't draw a dime, don't sell tickets, and the people, and eventually they get washed out a lot quicker. Case in point, The Miz, Dolph Ziggler, and Jack Swagger.
And they just don't let them
Do you
either.
remember 3 former world champions ever falling off that much and jobbing? No.
Well, it's ridiculous. They don't make things count, and they don't book right, and they don't let people be who they are, and it's a shame.
Yep. And now you're apparently only allowed to have one name. You cannot be Alexander Rusev. You are just Rusev. I can't wait till they start dropping off letters, including that, and Cena just becomes C.
Watch, I wonder if they're going to bring Goldberg in.
I hope they don't.
I hope not either. That would be interesting, then, Goldberg against The Undertaker.
No.
You don't think?
No, because I hated it. I mean, you could have done a whole the former streak versus the streak.
Yeah.
But I hated Goldberg.
Would have made sense, though. I would have been. I think I would have sold tickets,
I
though.
would have sold tickets, but it would
The
have
match,
been a god-awful match.
Yeah. Well, I'm Chris.
I'm Peck.
Good night.
Good night.